One of the reasons I can't seem to stop leaving anime alone is because just when you start to believe you've seen the cream of the crop, you stumble on some less or even unknown thing that is on par and often better than the usual people's choice, especially when that unknown entry is brought to you by one of anime's household names. When you hear the name Go Nagai, something like this usually pops up in your mind with these kind of visuals. But it's easy to forget that mangaka can be quite versatile in what they do. I mean, if you take it from a pure genre stance and forget about art style for a second, it's hard to believe that rumiko Takahashi brought us maison ikkoku, urusei yatsura, and ranma in the 80s, then turned around in the 2000s and did more darker-esque theme shows like Inuyasha and Mermaid Forest, though the manga for Mermaid Forest showed up in the 80s. Though Go Nagai had Cutie Honey, and that surely was left field from Devilman, I still think design-wise it's not as different from the anime we're going to be going through today, Fandora. It is dimensional year 2002. And the ability to travel among dimensions has been developed. And like anything in our real world, new advances in technology means for new and creative ways for criminals to maneuver and do what they do. And so, the rise of a new occupation called the Dimension Hunter to combat said criminals. This story follows one of the hunters by the name of Fandora and her weirdo partner Q on their ultimate quest to the Lem Kingdom to claim the bounty of Red-Eye Guran. Along the way, over the course of the 3-episode OVA, they of course encounter a few roadblocks that require them to sidetrack away from their ultimate goal. Now this could be a spoiler, so you could skip 10 seconds or so, but there's of course an item of interest in this anime being the jewel that Fandora wears on her head to fight, and it vanishes into the dimensions at the end of the first battle. This steers Fan and Q on a new journey to reclaim it. Now, the thing that I enjoyed with this OVA is the fact that it blends a couple of things together. It starts off with this space opera, sci-fi traveling vibe in the beginning. And then when it comes to interacting on land or during combat, it becomes a fantasy in swords and sorcery. Speaking of which, that would be the highlight of the anime. For a fly-by-night OVA that no one talks about anymore, if ever, I think there's merit to be identified in the action and combat for Fandora. Kinda reminds me of Magic Knight Ray Earth, and since it predates Ray Earth by almost a decade, the character Hikaru could quite possibly have been prototyped from Fandora's character design and even fighting setup. Another thing I want to say is that the setting makes the show worth holding on to the whole way through, as there's many aesthetic scenes and cool looking environments explored as they travel dimensions. And the reason I mention holding on is cause I'm just gonna be honest with you, episode 2 is pretty bad, so that's just a heads up. Please don't expect much from the character interactions, development, or plot. Just enjoy it for what it is. Just another slightly trashy, but surprisingly entertaining, retro anime. Konami Production in 1985 brought this to you, and I recommend it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.